Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Today's topic is about how thoughts precede actions. And I think this is a good topic to cover because, and it kind of goes off of what we had talked about a week ago, that in our dedicated practice time, well, what should I do when I have a great idea? Should I get up and should I go over somewhere and should I find a journal and should I write it down? And I think the answer that I gave last time was no, you shouldn't do that. And the reason you shouldn't do that is because this is your dedicated practice time. This is the time that you have set aside to do mindfulness practice, to be mindful, and to become aware of those urges and desires that we have, and to trust. I mean, trust is one of the 9 attitudes of mindfulness-based stress reduction, which we'll talk about those as this beginning of this year goes on. But to trust that whatever idea you've had is good enough that it will be there at the end without me having to be concerned about it or to get up and write it down. So, well, what's the reason, right? Why recommend that we don't interrupt our practice to go and write down our great ideas? Um, well, so this is really what this topic today is about, is that every action that we have, and in fact, let's go from the lightest thing to the heaviest thing. So the lightest thing that we have are thoughts, right? So thoughts are lightest, meaning the least consequence of what can happen out of these things. So thoughts are personal to us, and of course our thoughts can affect what happens outside of us. They can even affect things subconsciously. Our facial expression can change because of thoughts. We can notice our stress response changes because of our thoughts. We can feel our heart beating faster, or our breath changing pace because of thoughts that have come into our minds. And so the next level of consequence is speech. So sometimes thoughts will, and you can notice, kind of getting to today's theme, is that these next two, speech and actions, are all preceded by thoughts. That the thought comes first before the speech or the action. So speech has a little bit more weight, more consequence than thought. What we say has a bigger impact. That we can affect another person by what we say, and we can affect someone positively or negatively. We can make their life better or worse, and this is kind of why we consider compassionate speech, and compassion being that definition of what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying going to have benefit to that person? Is it worth saying this at all? And to kind of have this analysis before we have speech. A lot of the things that we say that we think are positive things, in fact, have some kind of self-serving piece underlying them. Like, I want to tell this person, oh, I know this situation. I've seen in this situation. I'm going to give this person advice because I know what's best for them in this situation. And I think we should really hesitate to do that, and make sure that we understand our underlying motives before we go ahead and talk. And of course, the other thing is, how much hateful speech can come out of us as well. So when something makes us feel angry, makes us feel unhappy, a lot of times we'll say something just for the sake of relieving that uncomfortable feeling that we have inside, when in fact that speech is harmful, and it's not helping the person that we're talking to, and it's not helping ourselves either, as we let out hateful speech. Or, and I think hate is maybe a strong word. It's just speech that that isn't constructive, speech that isn't meant to make the situation better. And then, of course, the thing that can have the most consequences are action. And so actions and what we choose to do can have really big impacts. And you can see that, if we get into a physical fight, a physical confrontation, this can have a much bigger impact than our speech as well. So just kind of seeing how each of these, and of course this isn't the only kind of harmful action that we can do. Lots of other, doing something passive aggressively can be really harmful to someone as well. So it doesn't really have to be this kind of, a physical confrontation. Although, if you look at what happens during, protests and riots and other places where actions, foolish actions are happening, we'll see that action can be extremely harmful. And again, this is not a lecture to tell you not to stand up for yourself, and not to take action when there is injustice, but it's why to use this quite carefully. Is who is the dealer of justice anyway? Is it supposed to be you? So again, this is about wisely examining the situation and understanding with mindfulness the feelings that accompany the thoughts, right? So before we take any action, before we speak any words, examining very closely the thoughts that are underlying all of this, and looking also very closely at the emotions that accompany the thoughts, and the bodily sensations that accompany the emotions, and paying attention to this triangle, the thoughts, the emotions, the bodily sensations, interpreting all of this so that we understand ourselves and we understand our intentions as completely as possible before we say anything, before we take action. And of course, not every situation in life affords us the time to be able to do all of this. So this is why we practice. This is why we practice mindfulness, so that we have this dedicated time to sit, to try our best to pay attention to a single object, often that's the breath, and to see what happens as we focus our attention and we try to pay attention to that single object. Of course, one of the things that we notice is that our mind won't stay there. Our mind will wander, and our mind will wander onto all sorts of things. And many of those things that our minds wander to are emotionally charged. And so we can have a brief moment to see what thought is there. What is it that's so important that distracted me from what I'm intending to do, focusing on my breath, focusing on the present. And by the way, while I'm checking out what thought is so important that distracted me, what feelings do I have? What physical sensations are accompanying that thought? What do I feel in my chest? What do I feel in my belly? What do I feel about the pace of breath? What do I feel in my face? Is there something going on? Is there some tightening of the eyebrows? Is there some clenching of the jaw? Well, what symptoms are showing the emotions, so that we have a clear idea of what's around it, so that I can see what thoughts I'm having that are self-serving, and how those thoughts affect me, and understanding what I'm like when I'm angry, what I'm like when I'm sad, what I'm like when I'm happy. How do all of these emotions affect my thoughts, my feelings, my speech, and my actions? So wish you the best in your practice today. We're about to go ahead and get into our practice. Would encourage you to sit comfortably and to use this dedicated practice time for this deepening of self-knowledge, so that when those hard times show up in life and you find that these challenging thoughts are showing up and that we want to speak, we want to act, that we do have a moment, we do have that space to just take a look as to what is really going on. Should I speak? Should I act? Should I do nothing? What is the wisest move for me? So finding your comfortable seat, encourage you to bring your back away from the backrest so that you're sitting up with your own effort, as this will help aid in concentration. And checking in with the face. Do you feel any tension in the face? Does your knowledge of tension allow that tension to dissolve? How about the jaw? See if you can keep your lips closed, yet your teeth slightly parted. Breathing through the nostrils if possible. Noticing the neck, the shoulders. Is there tension in the shoulders? See if you can let your shoulders just gently drop down. Relax. Notice the upper back, the lower back, the muscles in the abdomen. Can you allow those to relax? See if you can feel your breath in the belly. And so let's see if we can aid our relaxation of body and mind by taking a few deep breaths as we get started. So we'll do 3 breaths. After your next exhale, let's inhale together to the count of 5. Inhaling 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Now allowing your breath to return to its normal pace, its natural pace. Letting the body breathe. You're just along for the ride. You're observing, watching as the body takes in air, releases air naturally. Observing the physical sensations that accompany your breath. fully aware of the inhale, fully aware of the exhale. Not letting a single breath go by without your awareness of it. You're like the sentry at the city gate. People come into the gate, people go out. And it's your job to be fully aware of each and every person, to notice all of the details of that person's face, their clothing, who they are, as they come into the city and as they go out. Being vigilant, never letting your guard down. Noticing that, just like those people going in and out of the gate, this breath is unique. This inhale is unique. This exhale is unique. Every breath is one of a kind. Every breath is slightly different. Can you feel each breath and how it affects the body and the mind and the emotions? Is your mind still on the breath, or has it wandered away? If anything else has caught your attention, see if you can let go. Be aware of that thing that caught your attention, and then release it as you redirect your attention back to your breath. So keep it up. You're doing great. Just a few more minutes to go. Redouble your effort. Bring your attention fully to your breath. And of course, we don't have full control over our minds. As the mind wanders, give that thought your full attention. Be aware of that thought that distracted you. Look at how it affects the body, how it affects the mind, how it affects the emotions, and then release it as best you can. Come back to the breath. Come back to that feeling of expansion and contraction in the belly and the chest. Allow your full attention to rest there. And now the time has come for us to draw our practice to its close. I'll close practice with 3 rings of the bell. After the sound of the bell has subsided, feel free to begin to move around, to open your eyes, to transition out of our time of meditation. All right, thank you for joining me in practice today. How'd it go? What was it like managing, looking at thoughts as well? I think something to be aware of, or to maybe talk about in the beginning as well today, is, we have control of our actions, we have control of our speech most of the time. What about thoughts? What kind of control do we have over our thoughts? And I think the meditation can be a clear indicator of what that's like. So, what was it like for you today? What did you discover as you attempted to keep your mind focused? I'll go through the chat. J.E. has said, or harmful lack of action like procrastination we talked about last time. And that's interesting as well, right? And so as I am approaching a task that I'm wanting to do, what thoughts do I feel around, what thoughts do I notice around that? What emotions do I feel around that? And can I, through my mindfulness and wisdom, start to overcome what may seem like at the time debilitating emotions as I look at the story that I'm telling myself? So thanks, J.E., for bringing that up. Rachel is saying that she wishes she saw the beginning, and so I've been busy these days. I haven't been able to post the replays as quickly onto YouTube as I usually would, but that will be coming up on YouTube probably. Maybe at the latest by the beginning of next week. So just trying to get. It's got a lot of stuff going on here at home these days. So don't worry if you missed out and you want to see or hear what you missed out on at the beginning of today. Talking about, the main idea today is that thoughts precede speech and actions, and what we can do about that. You can watch the replay on YouTube. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Natasha. Thank you, Jean. Thanks, Blossom Violet. Glad to hear. Okay, very peaceful. That's great. But of course, a lot of us don't have peaceful meditations, and that's great too. I mean, it's possible for us to not judge how the meditation went, because our mind is the way that it is, isn't it? Kate says, went by so quickly. Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Thanks for sharing, Kate. Suzanne says, yes, found the idea of not having control over the mind and recognizing the thought's effect on the body very interesting. Thanks, Suzanne, for sharing. And yeah, Key shares that the procrastination talk a few days ago was good, and that was a talk that I gave about 48 hours ago. And the main idea of that is that procrastination is not a motivation problem. Procrastination is, in fact, an emotion management problem. And so I'll upload that. That also isn't quite, at least the video editing's done. I'll be uploading that here shortly, soon, hopefully today. Okay. Great to see you all, as always. It's lovely to look at all the bubbles floating at the bottom of the screen. I'll be back on Tuesday morning, my time. So if you're in Australia or New Zealand, that's also Tuesday morning. That's also Tuesday morning all over here in Asia. For a lot of you who are in Europe or the Americas, that's going to be on Monday night. The topic is, what's the topic? Oh, what is the request that your life asks of you? So this is it's a fun topic. So it ties in with intention, right? It ties in with the talks about intention that we've had. So before we move on to talk about a little bit about mindfulness-based stress reduction and secular mindfulness, like where it came from, what what it's all about, we'll finish off about a little bit more about the New Year intentions. And Jean says, the more I practice, the easier it is to notice my thoughts when they wander and in everyday life. I can notice more when I'm having negative thoughts and emotions about myself or my circumstances. Thanks so much, Jean, for sharing. I think that's so powerful. And I think that Jean's been meditating with me for several years, at least 2 years. And maybe has been meditating on her own more than that. And I guess I want to bring that up because if you think that you can't control your actions or your thoughts feel out of control, this is just kind of a testament to show that practice helps. Like doing the practice has a big impact on your emotional state and your mind. No, Kate, I stopped doing Saturday mornings a while ago, just for the sake of my own self-care. Like waking up I realized that waking up at 4:45 on Saturday morning wasn't exactly the best thing for me to do, especially when I want to spend a little bit more time with important people in my family on Friday night. So, not to say that this is the permanent schedule by any means. I am here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might open up other days as things change, as life circumstances changes. But boy, I'll tell you, that 1-year-old that I have, one, requires a lot of time, but two, I just relish every moment that I spend with him. So if it means that I have to cut back in other areas of life to be able to spend more quality time with people in my family in general, that's probably a sacrifice I'm going to make. So thanks, Esme, for your support, and thanks everybody for your support. If if you enjoyed today's session, follow me on Insight Timer if you don't already. That helps a lot. Helps my, that's the number one thing to do. It helps my material get exposure. Also, listen to the free tracks. If you're an Insight Timer Plus member, listen to the premium tracks. Eventually, sometime I'll have courses coming out, but again, it's all about prioritization and time management. So it's going to be coming. I promise it's going to be coming at some point. But in the meantime, I'll see you next time. And look, perfect timing. Look who comes over to say goodbye. Is Frank. So who also, of course, if you probably heard him meowing during the meditation, I think he's looking forward to having some breakfast. So yes, lives have been lagging lately. It is a bit, it is what it is, isn't it? Thank you, Esme, for your donation. Thank you, Kate, for your donation. See you guys on Monday night or Tuesday morning next week. Be well. Let's send our well wishes out to each other and to the world at large before we go, though. So again, about this, aligning thoughts, and when we start to have these kind of intentional thoughts, you may be surprised what happens as you go out and encounter the rest of the world. So repeat after me if you like. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching and listening right now, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. And may all sentient life here on earth, throughout the universe, and including those yet to be born, may we all be happy and peaceful. All right. Thanks again for joining. See you next time. Bye-bye.